Om Shanti. With this program that we've had in the month of September on inner power and protection, that we had programs throughout the world. Did everyone have programs in their countries? Hand up. Yeah? Okay. But of course all of these programs are for us to learn and grow also. And I was remembering a conversation that I had many years ago with our dear brother Jagdish, who a few years ago left the body. And the question was about spiritual power. And he was saying that all of us have all of the powers. We are like loaded revolvers, he said. And all we have to do is to learn how to pull the trigger. Means we have everything. If you look at it, we have all of the virtues, all of the qualities. But what's missing and what we've lost from the beginning, and it was a gradual loss, we lost our spiritual power. And those virtues and qualities that were radiant and beautiful and pure and elevated and uncomplicated, simple in the golden age, as we lost our spiritual power, our qualities and virtues became limited and not so pure, not so elevated, not so uncomplicated, not so simple. We didn't lose anything, in fact, except our spiritual power. And it's Baba's job, in fact it's his only job, to recharge the battery of the soul and bring us back to where we were in the beginning. Each soul has to go back to its own level of power. So we can do everything else in our spiritual lives. We can meet and greet and eat and sleep and have picnics and do service and give talks. But if we don't get back our spiritual power, then it's as if we haven't really done anything. We need spiritual power more than anything. And it's a very different life, the life that we have when there is spiritual power, and the life when there's not. Situations can break us because of a lack of power. Any arrangements of different souls saying different things and getting into different acts can make us feel very stopped or stuck or even broken. It's a symptom of a lack of spiritual power. Or we can use our spiritual power in battling. So it's like a draw, both sides are, they're battling against each other. And the power that I gained in meditation, I'm using, trying to break through the situation. And of course, if I have spiritual power, there's not a question of this. And when all of the forces that are against me are equal to the force that I can produce, it's called being stopped, right? But there's a lot of energy on both sides, and it's very tiring. So all of us can see how much power we have exactly by looking at the sorts of situations that block us or stop us. Last night there was a beautiful meeting with Daddy Janki and a few brothers, older in Gyan, in Gyan Sarovar, Daddy's cottage. Went on till about 11 in the evening. And at one point she was saying that one brother said, you know, I realize that I have done as much as I can, but I feel there's a roof. I can't get past that. It's like I'm being stopped, I'm blocked. So where is the power? In the roof or in the soul? What can really stop us? And so she said, in fact, there's a sequence. The first is blockage, then there's bondage, and then there's burden, and then there's barrier. And someone asked, okay, of those four things, blockage, bondage, burden, barrier, which is the worst one? And she said, blockage. We are stopped, we are blocked. There's something in front of us, a situation, even another soul, even something that I've created in my own mind that does not exist in reality. I'm in front of it and just bashing my head against it, and I'm using up the power that I get in meditation. And so at the end of the day, nothing is left, you know. At the end of the day, there's a score, right? Situations 10, me 0. You know, situations 5, me 4. Situations no translation. It's Russian. Yeah. You have to feel the vibration until the situation is resolved. See, another situation is blocking us. But it's like that. At the end of the day, am I winning? At the end of the week, am I winning? At the end of the month, what's my score? Do I have a more powerful stage than all of the things around me and all of the people around me? And I can see it very clearly in the influences. I remember many years ago in Colombia, I was giving a talk, and there was this guy, he said, you know, it was in the time, it was maybe 25 years ago, people used to smoke more in those days than they do today. And there was this guy in the talk, and he said, you know, I want to give up a habit. And I asked him how many cigarettes he smoked a day. And he said, well, I smoke 30 cigarettes every day. And for how many years? 30 years. And I made a very quick calculation, 30 times 365 times 30, it's about 2.5 million, 270,000 cigarettes. 300,000 cigarettes. But if you look at it, those few centimeters of a herb, basically, have become more powerful than that individual. Imagine that the soul has given away its power to a herb. That's a mixture of herbs with a filter on it. Others give their power away in a relationship in which they feel that it's impossible to overcome or difficult to deal with. Every one of us has someone difficult probably on our horizon. Is that true? There's someone who's a particular test for us. Do you have your favourite tester? Yeah? Do you have? But in fact, Baba says that we, in fact, empower the things that end up taking power away from us. By empowering something, we're giving it power, right? So if I think someone or something or a situation is very difficult, then I'm giving it the power for myself. So we have to, I think, wake up from the big illusion. Yeah? It's working? Okay. Happy now? Da? Okay. Spasiba. Thank you in Russian. So we need power to remove bondages and blockages. We need power. If bondages and blockages and burdens are affecting me, it's because I have given those things power. I've made those things more powerful than me. When Baba says that he's come to wake us from the deep sleep of ignorance, that deep sleep is a basic illusion. We know it's called body consciousness. But do we know the extent of body consciousness? Not just feeling I am this particular body. Where does our world end? The illusion of being separate from the world that we ourselves create. Last December I was coming back to a town in Brazil with another brother. We were driving along the highway and the town was called Curitiba. And so I was asking this brother, to whose Curitiba are we going? Are we going to your Curitiba or my Curitiba or Baba's Curitiba? Am I going to your center, my center or Baba's center? In fact, we live inside of a shell, I would say, that's much bigger than this particular body. Where my work is, where my center is, where my family is, that's me. And the illusion is that I'm separate from all of that. I don't have anything to do with this problem here. I don't have anything to do with this situation here. But the reality that we form around us is and the reality that comes back to us especially, that's what the limits of the body consciousness is. So we very rarely see things as they are or people as they are. We only see ourselves and we call it someone else. People's vices affect us because we have them. So I'm seeing me, I'm not seeing that other person. So when I see someone, do I see my version of that person? Or do I see that person's versions of themselves? Or do I see Baba's version? and which is the correct one. Of course, and to move to that stage where I can see the things as Baba sees them, I have to go beyond. In 1 second, I can claim back my original state just by moving back and sitting together with Baba and watching the drama. From Baba's point of view, there are no problems, there are no difficulties, there's no struggle. Everything is exactly as it should be. Each soul is going through their own story. My job is to sort out my own story, not to sort out other people's stories. So I need to reclaim back the spiritual power that I've lost. In fact, I've lost it by investing in ignorance. I've lost it by gradually investing my ego in things and in people, in situations. If someone affects me, it's because I have invested my ego in that person. And that becomes difficult. It's why we say we can't change us. Because who's saying I can't change is the ego. How can I change what I've invested in, where I am, as an ego? I have to go beyond it. And so it's very subtle. Gradually we lost power. It was a process more or less like this. First of all, there was the attraction to different things. And, I'm losing my ability to be beyond. In the golden age, we were beyond most of the time. There was everything was just abundant. There was no struggle to do anything or to even think anything. Relationships were absolutely easy and pure. But as we lost the power just through taking rebirth, we started to get attracted to things. And so what happens? I get attracted to something, I start to like it, I start to get interested, I start to have preferences, I start to get into bondage with it, and then I'm stuck. It blocks me. And in all of that process was the ego investing itself. So I remember Daddy once said, someone asked her, it was in Oxford, how can you serve someone who has betrayed you? And Daddy said very straight answer, that you betrayed yourself. No one betrays us. We betray ourselves. It's like betting on a horse, right? You put money on a horse and that horse didn't win. So what do people do at the horse races if their horse doesn't win and they've got their ticket? What do they do with it? They just tear it up. Okay, let's see the next race. So if something doesn't happen that you want to happen and it makes you suffer, it's because you're betting yourself. You have bet yourself. Not betting money, it's betting yourself. You've invested yourself in that thing. And that's why it becomes very, very difficult to change, because your idea of yourself is there, The only way we can stop suffering is to go beyond body consciousness. We cannot process difficulty and solve difficulty if we are body conscious. I have to go beyond it. And then I will see it clearly for what it is. You know, if someone makes me suffer, it's because I want something from that person. Let's be honest. And because I'm not getting what I want, I suffer. You know, we've become so fragile over many, many births. And practically, even the ones that make us suffer most, it's probably a chronic situation where it's the same soul who's come back again and again to test me. You know, that person now is the husband or the child or the centre in charge, or you know, my companion in service or whatever. That person, probably it's a chronic, any karmic account is chronic actually. And so what's happened in a karmic account is both sides have invested themselves, their body conscious self, in an outcome that doesn't, you know, it's not pleasurable. That's why Baba even says that there are no relationships in the Iron Age. Think about that. There are no relationships in the Iron Age, only bondages. And so we need power. We need our original power. The only thing we need is spiritual power, nothing else. With power there is purity. With power our virtues work. With power things can happen. Without power things happen to me. With power I make things happen. That's the difference. Without power, people influence me. With power, I influence people. And that's Baba's main job. We often forget it, right? Even Baba, a few years ago, here in Shantivan, he said, "Use me. Use me. I'm here. You know, hey child, here I am. Use me more. You're not using me enough." I'm the purifier, he says, right? We do not purify ourselves. That is the big illusion of the ego. That I'm going to understand these things and I'm going to put into practice this point and that point and that point. I've now got my 10 points that I'm going to practice, and I'm going to make the effort to purify myself. And it's an illusion. Because Baba is the purifier. I'm not the purifier of me. So I have to allow Baba to purify me. And not, you know, try to put the cart before the horse, you know. The effort of, you know, making lists and more lists, and we're all good at making lists, aren't we? You know, what are the 10 main points of patience and the 10 main points of tolerance and the 10 main points of, you know, the avyak stage and whatever. What is the siege stage? We're very good at definitions. But our job is to use God to give us the experience, to give us what we've lost. And this is also the illusion that it's very easy to forget that Baba, in fact, we're not doing anything new. That I've done this many times before. That I'm not creating a state that's different from what, you know, it's not outside of my possibility. I'm just reclaiming what I lost. I'm going back to being what I was. And as I was in the beginning, I was powerful, I was pure, I was beyond. That's the real me. So I'm just becoming me. If I'm suffering, that's not me. It's not the real self. If I'm lost or confused, it's not the real self. This is what Baba tells us. This is the basic awakening that we have to have. We have to come out of this trance of body consciousness. You know, it's like a trance, like a dream. It's not real. It is not real. Have you ever had that sense in a relationship with others, in a connection with someone else, that this is not real? The two real selves are, lost and confused and suffering, while the egos are battling it out, and the egos are holding the situation, and the poor little soul behind it all, witnessing this, where am I? Who am I? What's going on? We have to become witnesses of ourselves. Not just observers, witnesses. Take a few steps back from the scenes of today, How real were you? How much it's so easy to get into the mindset of the personality, the present personality, and the difficulties. Even here we're affected by the superficial differences of languages and culture, and even body types, sex, age, all of those things, the pains and the aches as the body gets older. How much of those things affect the way we look at the world? Am I a soul who trying to understand the context, or am I this big context trying to understand that I'm a soul? The first one, right? So all of the Murlis, Baba will always say, okay, these are the details, etc., etc., but what you really need to do is manmana bhava. Bhava means, one of the meanings is feeling. So you could say, feel that your mind is mine. Manmana bhava. That's a definition that I like. Baba is saying to us, feel that your mind, man, is mine. Mana. It belongs to me. Feel that your mind belongs to me. So what does that mean? If my mind belongs to Baba and I have to feel it, then I have to say, okay, Baba, what are you seeing here? What's going on here? We should invite Baba to witness the situation together. Huh? What are you seeing? What should I say? What's going on? And Baba will never see anyone as a difficult person. Right? We would be extremely shocked, wouldn't we, if Baba in the Murli suddenly said to someone, child, you are very problematic. He doesn't have that sort of language. You are extremely, I'm having a terrible difficulty trying to understand you, child. Imagine if Baba said something like that. He wouldn't. So, feeling that our mind belongs to Baba means to invite him to, to see things that we're looking at through these eyes, right? This is context that my karmic situation has created. There are people involved. There are things The four main types of karmic arrangements are the state of the mind, the emotions, the relationships that we have, the health, and the wealth. So there are four arrangements around us, basically. And the type of work we do, maybe we can put that there too. So the type of work we do, our emotional arrangement, the relationships around us, how much matter helps in terms of financial sustenance, and how the body helps or hinders according to its state. So that's the arrangement around this tiny little point of light called the soul. And that tiny little point of light, which is the soul, has to understand those arrangements and come to terms with them in the highest possible manner. And it can only do that by connecting up with Baba. And that means to put the soul and Baba together and look at those arrangements differently. And suddenly the soul realizes that it is more powerful than it thought it was. Nothing can stop a soul that has got back its power. Nothing can stop a soul. That's the Shiv Shakti, right? The power of Shiva in person. So we need power to remove bondage, weakness, blockage, and so on. We also need power to activate the qualities that we already have. All of the virtues, every one of the virtues, I already have them, but they lack power. They're like, you've got a 200 watt bulb of light, like this one here it's probably 200 watts or 300 watts. But imagine if the amount of energy that's coming in, it's only 12 volts, for example. A little battery, it's not enough to bring it up to its proper power. So I have to look at that big arrangement that is the world that has formed around me. I have to connect up with Baba at a very subtle level, and I have to, suddenly I see I'm much more than I thought I was. So I need power to activate what's already there. Thirdly, I need power to decide what to do. And this is very important. We talk about the law of cause and effect. Everyone knows it. But we think that a series of actions are the causes of the results. That if I do this and this and this and this, the result will be like that and that. It's not true. The real cause is not the action, but is the decision. So, if you have not decided to become pure, 100% pure, you're just trying. And trying is a noisy way of doing nothing. Imagine if someone came up to you and said, look, I've got a really good idea, I want to try it. Will you help me? And someone else comes up and said, look, I've decided, I'm absolutely convinced that this is the way to go. This is the way to go. Will you help me? Which of the two would you feel like helping? The one who's just trying, or the one who's decided. The one who's decided. So have you decided to become perfectly pure? Have you decided to become a deity? 16 celestial degrees. Have you decided to be God's companion? Or are you trying? So what gives the power is the decision, and not just a series of action. So that's one of the big illusions, I think. We get frustrated because we're doing so much effort, but we haven't really taken the decision. Even in the Lokik world, if someone comes up to you and says, look, I'd like to get married with you, let's try. Let's try for a year or two and see how it works out. You know? So if we approach our effort without having taken the decision, we'll never be successful. So how much have you really decided to be pure and to be powerful? We also need power to connect these qualities and virtues with the world around us, and that is called service. Remember yesterday Baba says that knowledge is incognito, Baba is incognito, but dharana cannot be incognito. We have to show our virtues. And it's only through serving in a conscious way, really, that we see how great we really are. So I cannot pretend to be great. Yeah? Many people try. But greatness is the impact that I have on others through having activated my qualities and virtues, and the people around just appreciate. They feel that there's something special here, that this person is coming from a very deep space. And those things are real. They're not just talking about peace, but is peaceful, yeah? And is giving the peace. There's not just talking about love, but is giving the experience of love. And so serving is in fact that, isn't it? I'm working on removing the barriers and the blockages and the burdens and so on. I'm activating my qualities through that power. I've taken the decision that, yes, I want to be what Baba wants me to be. And I'm connecting those qualities and virtues with results, with people, in what we call service. So it's impossible really to improve just by study, for example. The real improvements in our stage happen when we're on the field of service. When we get a chance, there are two sides. We get a chance to serve others that we don't know, for example. We get a chance to serve in an unlimited way, which is fantastic. But also we get a chance to be with other very highly, intensely motivated human beings called Brahmins, and we get a chance to see what we really are. The tests mainly come from Brahmins. Do you agree? Is that right? I was with 500 BKs in a retreat recently, and I asked them, who would you say is the greatest source of your, let's say, difficulty? Lokik people or other Brahmins? 80% of the people, 80% put their hands up and said other Brahmins. Yeah. What has greater influence on you? Baba's muli or other people's behavior? 80% other people's behavior had more influence than Baba's muli. They were being honest, right? So what are we doing here? What are we doing here? Just getting back the power that we lost. And Baba's main job, recharging the battery of the soul. And of course nothing of this is worth it unless we somehow institute a practice of checking where we're going. I remember my Lokik work was in the field of quality management and so on. In the 80s, there was a big wave of what they called total quality management, and everything had to be, best quality and service of the customer, best quality and so on. And they had what they called a cycle of continuous improvement, which was called PDCA. Plan, do, check, and act according to the corrections. So we plan, we do, but we need to check. And that's why Baba says, just do your chart every day. It doesn't mean to be, a big thing written that makes you frustrated. You can take up one thing for a week, or one theme for a day, or one theme for a week or a month. And just check and improve, check and improve, check and improve. And of course, if there's no checking, the power that we got one day will probably go away the next. There's an incredible. I'd say some people are like black holes. You know what black holes are? They just suck in all of the energy that's around. Some people are like stars, and some people are like black holes. The state of the world at the moment is such that things are becoming more and more accelerated because there is less time and more karmic accounts. That's the reason why the modern world is so accelerated. A lot of karmic accounts and little time left. So people have to rush from one to the other, to the other, to the other, to the other. So if I'm also in this rush, it does not mean that I'm actually solving the situation. I have to start out the day in a different consciousness. And sometime, I remember just recently, it was a very funny situation because Baba can use us even without us realizing it. And the situation was like this. I had been invited to be a facilitator at a congress on sustainability for Latin America. So I was one of the facilitators. There were 1,500 people in this congress. And I had to prepare the essence of the small groups to present it back to the plenary. So I had a task, and I had to go from one group to the other in the break to get back in time for the plenary session so that I could give the essence of what the conversations that were going on. So I was in the break. Everyone was relaxing and I was going from one main person to the other, getting the essence quickly. And one lady stopped me and she said, "Oh, great, how great it is to see you again." I said, I haven't seen you before in my life, I'm thinking like this, who is this lady? when you travel around a lot like I do, sometimes you don't know who you've met. You forget who you meet, right? You forget their names, you forget their faces. So it's quite possible that someone knows you that you don't know them, right? Anyway, she says, it's great to see. Can I ask you then, tell me the second part of the story. I said, what do you mean the second part? I've never seen you before. I don't even know what the first part is. No, the other day I had a dream, she said. And you appeared in my dream. And you were telling me what I had to do. And then you said to me, when you come to this Congress, I'll tell you the second part of the story. I said, I was a little bit shocked, because this is something that's happening on a subtle level, All of the subtle machinery. I became aware that there is a subtle machinery around us. And we get so much caught up in the tasks and the things, and we forget that there's some subtle service happening here and there. And Baba has said that people start to have visions of you. And there I'm in the middle of a congress, rushing between one place and the other, and a lady came up to me and said, I had a vision of you. You came to my dream. Please tell me the second part. And I said, okay, let's sit down. I became a little bit, goose pimples. Let's sit down. I need to relax myself, And then I had a chat with her. And it was better, in fact, to have done that than to get the essence of the group work. Because it really then, since we're always in a on Baba's service, it doesn't matter where we are. The summing up of the Congress was extremely powerful, because I realized that what am I running around for? There's already a subtle machinery going on. Let me get in touch with that subtle machinery, and then something can happen. What do people need after all? Do they need more words? They spent their whole time talking about how to work towards a sustainable future, right? So what can the government do, and what can the NGOs do, and what can the companies do, and what can individuals do? And there they are, words, 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 words. We know words won't solve things. So it was very useful that lady came up to me and stopped me in the middle of my running around and reminded me that in fact I'm here to do something more than just give people words. And so we ended up, instead of having a summary of all of the conversations, we had a meditation, which was of course much more powerful. What people need also is power. They need to have the experience of real spiritual power, because the ego has set itself up as a sort of a false power. Anger is a false power. Ego is a false power. Attachment is a false power. Vices, if we are still bowing down to them and saying they're very difficult to conquer, is because we've given the power to them that we should have kept for ourselves. Are the vices more powerful than me? No. Because in fact they don't exist in their own right. Vices, like heat exists, cold doesn't exist. It's only when you remove the heat that there's cold, right? And you can remove heat until the temperature is 273 degrees below zero, which is the absolute zero. But in fact it's not being radiated from anything, just that all of the heat has been removed. So the soul has had all of its power removed. And vices are there. They don't exist. They only exist because the soul is weak. And if at the same time I'm giving more power to Maya, which literally means not that. Maya, ma, not from the Sanskrit. Ya means that, not that. So everything except Baba is not Baba, right? Everything is not Baba. Only Baba is Baba, in other words. So there's only one source for everything I need. Not books, not conversations with other Brahmins, though that's very interesting. Even not the words of the Muli, if I just use them as words. I have to extract the feeling. I have to extract the meaning. What does all this mean for me? You know? Can I really have a spiritual vision towards others? That's what it means to have the third eye open. That everything I see I am interpreting in a spiritual way because I'm witnessing it together with Baba. My attitude towards things is a nurturing attitude. Just good feelings will come out of pure thoughts, right? So everything, the only attitude I have is to make things grow. If something is stopping me, it's because that also, it's a weak situation and a weak soul that have come into a sort of a connection with each other that they've stopped. Weak soul, weak situation, stuck, right? We have to empower the soul, not the situation, right? That's why Baba says, don't have yoga with the problem, have yoga with me. And then you'll see what it is. And of course, we have to engage in service very consciously. What is service? It's the chance for me to see myself as I really am. And as I do that, I give others a chance to see themselves as they really are. That's what service is. It's not running around, though sometimes we forget it. You know, it's not doing a list of tasks and then wondering why I didn't get at the end of the day, instead of feeling blissed and elevated, I feel absolutely exhausted. It means that I haven't done the things in the right consciousness. The end of the day should be a celebration, not a state of collapse. Right? So, the only thing I need to do is to get back the power that I've lost. Everything comes with it. And Baba is there exactly for that reason. And he's wondering why we're not using him as we should. One of the most subtle forms of ego is the soul who believes that it can do its own effort without, a close relationship with God. I can sort this out. I have to understand this. Okay, Baba, thanks for that nice point you gave me, but I have to sort it out. No. I have to get power. The power sorts things out, not the intellectualization. It's not the understanding that sorts things out, it's the power. Shakti. Okay? So let's have some powerful meditation. Half an hour. I'm just a tiny point of light connecting up with the Supreme, and all of this arrangement around me will get the benefit of me having become more powerful through